Good evening, you're watching NDTV Profit and I'm Sanjana. On this Independence Day, as we celebrate 78 years of freedom, the theme is inspiring the future. It's a moment to look beyond where we've come from to where we're going, to ask what kind of India are we building for the next generation? What are the ideas, the technologies and the ambitions that will define our place in the world in 2047 at 100 years of independence? Tonight, we bring together three leaders shaping that future in very different ways. Jaspreet Bindra, founder of AI and Beyond and Tech Whisperer Limited, helping India navigate and lead in the age of artificial intelligence. Srinath Ravichandran, co-founder and CEO of Agnikul Cosmos, taking India to new heights, literally in the space economy. And Ashok Atluri, CMD of Zen Technologies, building cutting-edge defense technologies to keep India secure in an uncertain world. So together, we're going to explore how their work and the sectors that they lead can inspire and define the India of tomorrow. Good evening to all of you and welcome to NDTV Profit. Let's start with a big canvas on the future that you're working towards India in 2047. Jaspreet Bindra, over to you first. How are you seeing AI shaping India's economic and social landscape by 2047? And what must we do now to ensure that it works for every Indian and not just a handful?
It definitely is an exciting time to be alive and an exciting time to be an Indian and alive. The reason for that is I think every generation, there's a technology which comes and shapes our future, our society, our work, and sometimes even our planet. And we are right now at that moment with artificial intelligence, a technology where intelligence will become free, available on tap for everyone. And in our case, 1.4 billion Indians who can draw into that and kind of shape their future and their country's futures. I think we have a great opportunity as we look towards 2047 to use AI to leapfrog towards that goal of a developed India or Viksit Bharat. We have lots of problems. We know that population scale problems, but we have once before used technology at population scale to leapfrog with UPI, Aadhaar, etc. And a similar opportunity exists in front of us to do that all over again. But to do that, to answer the second part of your question, we will need to forge our own path. You know, the US is forging a particular path, which is private sector led, which is very libertarian, which is very, corporate led in a sense. China is forging another path, which is very statist, very application led, very much within Chinese kind of AI models and AI. And we have an opportunity to actually do a rest of the world path, which is a third way in a sense, which combines both the exciting innovations that AI can bring in, but also how it can be used for all and for good and bring in societal good with the right guardrails, the right population scale problems for not only India, but the global South, and forge that third way and take a leadership position as the third country in that troika, leading the path to the future with India, and then followed by the global South. And we have a unique opportunity to do so as a global South leader, and also because the big AI India Impact Summit is going to happen in February 2026 with India as the chair, and that I think is the right platform to do that.
That sounds like an interesting platform and quite an interesting concept as well. So Feb 2026, we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Srinath Ravichandran, in space technology, how do you imagine India's role evolving over the next 25 years? Because we're looking at satellite launches to deep space missions now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that has happened in India in the recent past in space tech is opening up of the sector to the private players, right? I think ISRO has been working with private players forever. I think that's not new. What's really changed is policy coming out that allows for private players to be mission owners. Like right now, an Agnikul's rocket can fly another private satellite from India and put it in orbit, and the Indian government will come in only as a regulator to make sure we're following the safety protocols and we're following all the other norms. So this allows for terrific expansion because suddenly 60 years of ISRO knowledge that we have gained painfully over a very long period of time is now available to actually commercialize. And I think once money starts flowing into this sector in the private side, we're going to see a lot more innovation. And I think once we see a lot more innovation, that is actually how a country's real power and stature in the world is going to be calibrated, right? I think the three or four fronts in which I think today a country can position itself, like how a corporate company would probably be in energy, in space tech, in AI, and a couple of other sectors, right? And I think this has been opened up now. So I think we are in very strong footing. No better time in India to be building a private space venture. No better time to be doing space tech R&D than today. Like literally, I would say this: the government has allowed for a SpaceX to be built in India if that is what people are wanting to and willing to do. Now it is up to us to go and build out these things. So that's where we've gotten today, which is a very bright way to look at what is possible.
Absolutely, reaching for the stars in every possible way. Ashok Atluri, from a national security perspective, what's your vision for a future-ready India that can really defend itself against both traditional and any emerging threat? I think you're on mute, sir.
We need to identify some Pareto technologies in the future, in the sense that we should not try to become a little of everything, but what are those future technologies that will actually help us, win a war? Like, for example, we talk about anti-drone systems, we talk about drones, we talk about space technologies. So these are all the technologies we think, 20% of these Pareto technologies, if you really, really focus on them, and then again, when I say focus, it is not manufacturing. Unfortunately, many of the people in the defense, they say make in India, but actually the make in India component is very, very less. It's about, even if you look at iPhone, it's 1.25% that Apple pays to Foxconn. But everybody talks about make in India as if it's a big deal. No, it is not. Actually, design and develop should be the primary criteria. If we are able to, not just focus on the old technologies like the tanks and different things, but in the future technologies, the anti-drone systems, the space technology, the quantum safe communication. If we really, really start investing now, doing serious R&D in that, we will emerge absolutely number one in that. 5 years from now, we should be aiming at that. We should not play the catch-up game. We should be there. Because as they say, in war there are no runners-up. You have to be number one, and that in technology, we should not depend on TOT and start manufacturing here. I see very large companies just going and begging that we want to your technology so that we can manufacture. We are not manufacturing coolies. We are smart enough to innovate and invent ourselves. So, that is the mindset change that needs to happen. People say we want India to be the factory of the world. No, we don't want India to be the factory of the world. We want India to be the R&D lab of the world. We want to be a product nation, not a manufacturing nation. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's quite an interesting perspective and approach. And honestly, talking to Jaspreet and to Srinath, we're seeing some pretty ambitious visions. But I think turning them into reality means solving some hard problems in the here and now, which I think Ashok sir rightly raised. So as a follow-up to you, Ashok sir, what's the biggest bottleneck that you are facing in building, say, indigenous defense tech? And how can policy or industry collaboration unlock that for you?
I'm a very Pareto guy. Recursively, if I see where does all the problems end up, I think that the time, there are companies like, Zen that have, we have 195 global and Indian patents that we have applied for, 95 granted. But the point is that once we make a product, the ecosystem should absorb it immediately. But even after we make a product, it takes, a few years for us to actually sell a world-class product to our forces. So that is the problem we face, that if people, other players look at us and they say, listen, you developed this product in 2021 and you got the order in 2025, that's a lot of time gap. Nobody wants to invest in R&D. So if they can actually incentivize the bureaucracy and the officers you process the files faster. So, I always say, if there is no penalty to any officer if they delay the file, if they take as much time as they want. But if they sign even one file in which there is a comma or a full stop missing, there is a CVC and a CBI angle. So my proposal is that if you really want to incentivize Indian R&D companies to come, make the procurement faster. And how can you make the procurement faster? By actually calculating the delay for each day of decision that you delay in taking. For example, we have calculated on 100 crore project, every day's delay costs at least 10 lakhs. And this is a component. The national GDP is delayed, the Indian defense is compromised, and the business itself. I can't sustain 2 years or 4 years of salaries and maintaining the overheads, etc. I can't sustain. So what is the day of delay? And we should mark it to the officer or the person responsible. And we say, listen, if you and again, it should be a positive thing. If they have 2 weeks to take a decision and they take it in 3 days, there are 11 days to their credit. But if they take beyond 2 weeks, then that's a minus, that's a nation suffering a loss. So if they can actually calculate this, savings and penalties with respect to early and delayed decisions, I think this speed score, which I like to call, if they can, they should actually, everybody, IAS officer should ask, what's your speed score? So, I think that would be a great day for me, actually. I think that would help Indian industry a lot. Yeah.
I think that's probably a problem that Jaspreet doesn't face in terms of using AI. The speed score is not something that he potentially faces, and he's nodding in agreement. Jaspreet, in AI adoption, what's the biggest mindset shift that India needs among businesses, policymakers or citizens to truly embrace this transformation? Because I think where we are at the moment, because of the kind of layoffs that we're seeing, we're also seeing there is understandably so, there is a sense of hesitancy, there is some fear that is there, and it's very well to say we need to embrace it and all of that, but you have to face that it also means like there has been a loss to some livelihood. So what would you say is the mindset shift that we need as a population?
Sanjana, I do actually face the speed test or the speed score thing,
Okay.
but in the opposite way that Ashok is probably referring to. In AI, things are happening so fast.
Too fast, yeah.
If we get on a conversation tomorrow, between today and tomorrow, multiple things would have changed. It's rocket speed, as Srinath would probably agree. But coming to your question, I think, look, the fact is this. The fact is AI is here. It is inevitable. We cannot wish it away. It's something like when the internet came, we had probably the same apprehensions, and we had to go through a similar mind shift. There were apprehensions regarding jobs, there were apprehensions regarding skills, there were apprehensions regarding education, what it will do to our students, there were apprehensions regarding pretty much the way our businesses were run, what would happen to our companies, everything. We took it in our stride. We had some problems, took it in our stride. And actually, if you think about it, the internet and IT has created far more jobs, created far more opportunity, created far more entrepreneurship than potentially what it was supposed to destroy. AI is the same thing. And in my book, the one thing that we need to do in AI, and I work a lot on that, I'm passionate about that. My latest book is about that. Is about how we make every Indian citizen AI literate. The definition of literacy will change, Sanjana, from reading, writing, arithmetic, country being 72% literate, 80% literate, to doing all this, but also how you can naturally work with so many AI tools and possibilities out there. Much like we do with search, much like we do with WhatsApp, and now much like we do with UPI and some of the other digital public goods that are there. And the moment people become AI literate, they will stop fearing it. They will start looking at it as an opportunity. In fact, I have a name for it. I call it Jan AI, AI for the Janta. Obviously, it's a riff on Gen AI. Let me give you one example and then close. Ashok was talking about how long it takes and, how the defense forces, for example, take so long to absorb technology. We did a few days back what we call an AI literacy boot camp for the very senior officers of the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force. And for the first time in those 4 hours, they understood what AI could do for them very simply. And once they understand, that mindset change happens. Perhaps it will become easier for us entrepreneurs like Ashok and others to actually bring in their technologies because people are now literate in that technology.
Right.
And I think so that's one thing that I would say as an India, we need 1.4 billion AI literate Indians.
Okay, ambitious targets. Srinath Ravichandran, space remains capital intensive, right? So what financing or regulatory changes would make India more competitive globally?
I think the first thing actually that can be done is to figure out technology that works at a lower cost. I mean, that's really the best way in which you can reduce cost, right? And so that's a part of a lot of the R&D that we do. Don't just count on, oh, it's made in India or rather designed and made in India, so it'll be cheap. That doesn't work in space tech. It's better if you're actually thinking about what are the unit economics, what are the commercials, what should we really solve for, and how to make the cost lower from that. Now, that said, it's still capital intensive even after all that. So, in that context, I think two, three things can happen. One, I think the government has already announced like a space tech fund, multiple projects coming out where now private players can actually get access to some amount of government money to carry out missions. So we should be doing more of that and people should be made more aware of that. Second, I think is from the typical, startup ecosystem standpoint, like venture capital money or private equity money coming in. Probably there is a bit of a lack of a massive success story in this space. And so you're not seeing a $500 million funding round happening for any of the startups today in space tech because the game also started very recently. But at the same time, I think people are also waiting for those amazing exits that they should get, and then that becomes its own fully established sector. So I think the success story part is something that could also propel things forward. The last bit, I think, is general acceptance at both the government level and at a much more local level, where people actually accept and understand that good space tech can be built here or good aerospace tech can be built here. There's a lot of, I think, negativity or at least some bias in thinking that India or Indians cannot design some of the engineering that's required for the most advanced space tech systems or aerospace systems, and maybe that is driven by some bad stories of the past and so on. But I think we are way beyond that. So there is a little bit of, I think, as a community we need to get more confident about our engineering capabilities. There is a lot here. Whatever I've seen with Agnikul, I've seen some of the best engineers out here, and I've been outside the country as well, and I work. So I know that what I'm seeing here at a global level is also some of the best people we have here. So yeah, we just need to get to that level of confidence, which will then translate into reliance, self-reliance.
All right. Okay, so if we can break all of these barriers, I think as we've all discussed, the opportunities ahead are immense, and I think they just go far beyond just business success. So Srinath, let me come back to you. What is your message today to young Indians who dream of joining the space industry? What skills should they start building today?
Three things. One, I think if you want to be in engineering, get your math and physics basics right. You don't need to be very advanced. You don't need to be
I'm
a
out of this
mathematician.
game then.
All you need to know is the basic math and basic physics and a lot of common sense. The more of common sense you have, the better. Second, I think is a slightly more softer skill, which is resilience. Anything in deep tech or hard tech doesn't happen quickly. So we should stop solving for instant gratification. Try thinking about long-term bets. We should start thinking about 50-year plans. I know 50-year plans almost looks like infinity for many of us, but without that, no massive big projects can happen in these kind of sectors. And lastly, don't wait. There is literally this probably maybe the best test of the best times that we have to do space tech in India privately, right? So I think if you want to do something in space tech, you start on the next working day, whatever, next Monday or something. You should go and start your startup.
All right. Okay. No pressure. Ashok, how can India better channel its youth into defense R&D and high-tech manufacturing, not just as jobs, but even missions of national pride?
And we at Zen Technologies have a vision that we want to make India unbeatable in war. So, when we try to hire people, we try to see people with high agency, just not intelligence. I mean, we don't really go after IITs, and God forbid IIT plus IIM is a big no for us.
Okay.
But we do go after people who are actually saying, listen, we want to do something for the country. And then, if you have that vision, that high agency, and, as Trina said about the resilience and the ability to stick through the time, this is a fantastic time for people to come into defense. And there are so many opportunities, the cutting edge technologies. And we have started using AI across all the, not only R&D, the generative AI and R&D, but across all operations, everything. Even for tender submission, we are using AI a lot. So, so this is the exact time in which the young people can come, learn these things, and become 100x more, productive than a guy again. Again, I don't believe AI will replace people. It is people with AI skills will replace people. So this is what I tell the team that, please learn AI so that we don't get replaced by another company with AI. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Nice. So then coming to AI, let me ask Jaspreet this. How can we inspire more young Indians to see AI not just as a job opportunity? Because I think that's the general consensus at the moment in popular culture. I'm sure not at the level where you are involved, but more as a tool to solve India's biggest challenges.
Yeah, so I absolutely resonate with what you're saying, Sanjana. Sometimes we kind of narrow down or look at the lens of AI only through jobs,
Correct.
and therefore, at a youth level, we tend to get nervous about it. Therefore, what's going to happen? What's my new job? See, there are a couple of things which I would say here. Number one, that there has been no better time for a young person to be an entrepreneur, whether in space tech, whether in defense tech, or anything else. AI is a massive disruptor. We are looking at the negative side and saying, oh, jobs will get disrupted. Oh, the way society is going to get disrupted, etc. But when I wake up, I see everywhere I see every disruption to be an entrepreneurial opportunity in everything. And so if I was a young person today, I would literally be in a candy store, a kid in a candy store with so many entrepreneurial opportunities. And therefore, the first thing that I would tell a young person is that, look, forget the old model of going into a job, spending 3 years, exactly. Just become an entrepreneur. Let a million, tens of millions of entrepreneurs bloom. And that's the biggest opportunity. And it's entrepreneurs who will build India. It's not going to be large corporates which are going to build the economy. It's going to be entrepreneurs. And so that to me is number one. And number two is taking off from everyone becoming AI literate, which frankly is not difficult to do. We've had literacy targets, we've had population control targets, we've had those targets, and that's really happened. And so the second opportunity really for people who feel for the country, who feel how they can help uplift the country. This is a very powerful set of new technologies which have come in, which can help you go in and solve some of the big population scale problems, whether it be in education, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be in defense, or whether it be anywhere else. And so I would really look at that as a mission in a sense rather than a job. And so those are the two things I would talk to youth about.
All right. Okay. I think this has been a great discussion, and in a future as unpredictable as ours, the ability to adapt potentially may be our greatest strength, and I think that's something that all of you have done effortlessly. Just some really quick thoughts, and I'm going to get the last answer in from Ashok. In national security, looking forward, how do we balance preparing for conventional threats along with fast rising cyber and drone warfare risks?
I think the threats are completely moving towards the advanced threat. The conventional threats, I think we have enough infrastructure in place to neutralize them, kind of thing. But what we have to see is it's not what happens if a drone goes and attacks a agrochemical plant. What kind of damage it will do. So these unconventional ways, where the airports, the airplanes, everything are now under threat. So how do we smartly keep innovating without disrupting? If something happens, you suddenly say, no more drones to be flown, you will kill innovation completely. So, this is the knee-jerk reactions will happen. So we have to be preemptively trying to solve the threats that, what we have seen, for in Operation Sindoor, we saw lot of drones coming, and Zen's anti-drone systems were very effective there. But still, we need to up the game now. We need to have hard kill options. We need to, what is the future? What is how it was again? It was not just a war between India and Pakistan, but it was fully supported by China and Turkey. So this what happened is actually a multi-front war. How are we going to handle that? So those are the capabilities I think very, very fast self-funded private companies can do. But again, if the decision-making cycle is fast, with the speed scores being installed in the decision-making process, we will be prepared for the future from the private industry. And so I think that is the fastest way to do it. Self-funded private R&D is the way to go.
All right, and with that, thank you so much to all of you for your time. And my quick takeaways from this: no better time than now to be an entrepreneur in India. Up the game, like Ashok sir rightly said, and of course, keep building on common sense at the same time. Thanks so much for that. The India of 2047 will be shaped not just by policies and budgets, but by visionaries, risk takers, and problem solvers. People who dare to imagine and build what doesn't yet exist. On this Independence Day, inspiring the future isn't just a theme, it's a call to action. From AI to space to defense, the work starts now, and the responsibility belongs to all of us. I'm Sanjana Chauhan, and wishing you a very happy Independence Day.